Hi, very good afternoon. Once again, very warm welcome each one of you to this virtual roundtable. I think it is one of its kind where we are just trying to get a lot of practitioners together to mull over some of the pressing topics, including some humor moments I'm sure we'll have through the conversation, as well as we'll have some serious conversation about what's really as the agenda for the digital transformation. How can you drive and accelerate digital transformation in your business services environment and organization? This word like digital and digital transformation, my apologies to say, it's quite used word and quite abused word for some time now. I think everyone just picks this word and say, okay, I'm going for this journey. And sometimes, many times, one instant or one initiative is seen as a digital transformation. While based on some of the research at Shared Services Forum and the put of philosophy around it, we feel digital transformation is also about a journey. It's about a journey which you start, and you start from a point, and you know what is the point of departure and what is the point of arrival and how will you go through the journey. There's a lot to bring in between. It's a continuum. You need to create that kind of a width and a depth, and so on and so forth. I think one of the things we'll try to achieve in the next an hour and a half or so is to hear practitioners' perspective, your own experiences, and I'm sure a lot of people who have logged in to the session will be able to get value from this session. So that's what we anticipate and look forward from this conversation the team had. Very good afternoon to the people who have logged in on this session. And I think Deepak, can you just put yourself on a mute? I can just put everyone on mute. I think 1 second. Just give me a second. Yeah.
So, email,
No apologies. I think so. We will progress with this conversation, and we would like to see a lot of experiential understanding from each one of you. How have you gone through, and what are the kind of success which you have got, and what kind of failures which you have got? I think I'm very happy to even hear some failures from you all, because that is going to be an interesting learning opportunity for the many people who have logged into this session. As I open this session, I would be putting some rules of the game, if I can say. Nothing new for many of you. Some of our participants who have logged in, they would be able to hear us well. They would be able to post their question in a Q&A mode. And at the right time, I'll be taking those questions and flipping through some of you to seek responses and perspective. As a part of these discussions, we will be progressing with each one of you seeking your perspectives and maneuvering the conversation. Please feel free if you have any comment to add after anyone, and please raise your hands to provide your perspectives or a comment on that. We just need to be very mindful of brevity. Just be brief in terms of your responses, because we would like to hear from each one of us across the panel, and a very eminent panel. 200 plus years kind of an experience. Each one of you bring, immense understanding of shared services, done it, tried it, done it, multiple organizations maybe sometimes. So just opening the discussion now. As I start, I think one of the things which we like to set the context is that I'm very happy to have one of the friend here, Sumit Pathak, who represent an organization, Automation Anywhere, which is now not requires introduction. I'm sure each one of you, as well as the audience who is logged in, is pretty much aware of this. I would request him to set the context, and because they have been dealing with some of the interesting side of the demand of the customers. So the customers are coming with a little contradictory demands. They're coming with confused mindset, and they are sometimes coming with not having a lot of clarity in terms of what to go and how to go for. So pre-COVID and post-COVID, I think Automation Anywhere obviously has been doing a lot of work, but I think interested to hear, so with your experience post-COVID, how are you finding organizations reaching out to you? What are the kind of anecdotes you are receiving now? So you can just set the tone of the conversation next few minutes, then we'll build the conversation over that. So over to you, Sumit. I know you have a couple of pages to flick as well. So Sumit, over to you.
Thank you, Rakesh, and hello everyone, and hello to the participants who have joined as well. So I'll just quickly share a couple of slides which I have got just to set the context going, and from there we can have a free-flow conversation. If I can get the rights to broadcast, that will be great. So while we're getting that, see, from Automation Anywhere perspective, we've got some 3,000 customers across 90 different countries. What we, when COVID came upon us, one thing which we did was we quickly internalized and regrouped ourselves on two aspects. Aspect one as to how do we help our customers now, okay? Because they are in the thick of this particular situation. We all are in this situation, right? How do we help them with the technology which we have? Some of them already are using our technologies, and some of them are, they're almost at the starting line and not are about to embark on it. And Rakesh, you spoke about digital transformation being a journey, right? I also believe that the journey starts with a change in mindset. And I believe this, this COVID has basically changed that mindset, given that particular catalyst or push for many organizations to start with their digital transformation journey. Just if I can quickly take you through cover this. See, one interesting aspect which we did as a result of the COVID pandemic lockdown, we thought that we cannot, so every industry has been impacted in a different way, and you put them into three different buckets. Buckets where the industry needs to be efficient, where they need to survive, and the one which needs to be saved. Efficient means the ones who are in this perfect storm, right? Pharma, healthcare, hospitals, government and ministries, who are at the front line and trying to flatten the curve, right? So we reached out to them, help them out in suggesting how we can, how we can create that capacity to help them in focusing on more critical tasks. From the survival perspective, like airlines, we all have gone through this experience when lockdown was announced in India. We all had a lot of travel plans. I had holidays plans because my daughter's school were closing. We had to cancel the tickets, and that was not a good experience. It took us around 45 minutes for me to be on the call. And in the end, I was asked to go on the website to put that particular request. Right. So again, how do we create a capacity for the organizations who are already going through the duress, but then save them from the reputational risk, right? And that's where the automation technology was used to help them out. And then save is like banking and insurance is too big to fail. Government suggested to waive off home loan EMI for their customers. Now it's easier said than done, but what goes through behind in terms of orchestrating and channelizing it was another huge humongous task, and we got a lot of PFSI customers who reached out to us. So the first part was how do we help our customers now, right? And as I spoke about in different buckets, different categories, depending on how they were impacted. But another thing which we did in month of April, we had several webinars, and we had an opportunity to reach out to 5,000 executives across India, Middle East, Africa, and few countries like Mauritius, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh. 4 major themes came out as a result of that particular survey which we did to the webinars, and webinars were basically asking questions. One, digitization had always been there in the back of the mind, right? But what this COVID has done is it has basically, fast-tracked it. We have seen that 70% of the respondents want more than 60% of their workload to get digitized now, right? So it's a huge jump, and enhance productivity, accelerate automation, and upskill the workforce. These were again the 3 major themes which came out of it. If I go back to Deepak, I think you need to go on mute. There is some, yeah, thank you. Thank you. If I can zero down on that particular theme, 3 major observations, right? So top strategic priority for the organization today is to reduce the operational cost. We know that the revenue is depleted. We know that the budget is under stress. How do we reduce the operational cost? And just followed by is increase in productivity, which go hand in hand. So the idea is we want to increase the productivity. We want to do more with less and thereby also reduce the operational cost. Third point is improve business resilience. How you can make your organization more resilient to such situations, and situations could be not only a pandemic, but could be some other external factors, could be the political unrest or national calamity or anything for that matter, right? So how do you make your organization more resilient? Now I remember having a conversation with Sanjay when this happened. I was asking how Telstra is basically looking at that, and are you using the bots to basically help to make your in BCP? One profound thing which came out of that conversation was that the automation was used more to make organization more resilient and not for BCP, which means that if you have digitized your process in such a way that it can stand on its feet, irrespective of the situation you are in. And that's the aim of digital transformation, to make it resilient. And that was true, because after when we spoke to other GIC leaders, the similar statement came through that your digital transformation or automation have to be done in a way that you're able to make the organization more resilient. So how do you make organization more resilient? What technology do you need? And 48% of those respondents said that RPA and intelligent automation, right? Followed by analytics and other technologies and machine learning, which again is a natural flow towards that when you are embracing this new technology, you have to upskill your organization as well. And we saw equal split between RPA, machine learning, and analytics. Now, this is easier said than done, right? We are in a distributed work situation. How do you ensure that the organization, while still in lockdown, working distributedly, are able to embrace, embark, and scale in their automation journey, and not looking in a piecemeal way? There has to be a mindset change. There has to be a strategic way you basically go for it. But you need to also have right levers to support you that, right? And that's where, from Automation Anywhere perspective, the idea was that how do we help the organization to start? How do we provide the right lever to the end user, to the citizen developers, the ones who are basically in the thick of doing the processes, right? And taking away that particular dependency of learning new technology. And the Automation Anywhere basically was able to provide that citizen development method where it was easy, it was low code, no code. You could look at the process. It will help you to discover using the automation technology. It will take you through the development and deployment, right? So Discovery Bot is something which is coming through in month of July, which will help organizations to start their automation journey with help of intelligent solution, where you just look at the process recording. It will help you to not only identify, but also develop, deploy. And so is cognitive and RPA. We know it's a ubiquitous. We don't need to say what it is. Many of you are already using it, and also smart analytics as well. But at the heart of all of this, right, the heart of the digital workforce value chain, the idea is to provide the right value, to keep the customer and the stakeholder in the center of this transformation, to provide the resiliency, labor optimization, faster cycle time, to help solve the business problem, and just not look at to automate one part of the process or certain processes, right? How do you go about changing the current way the process is done? Can you digitize it? Can you do completely STP? For example, I was speaking to one of the CFOs of Tata Sky, Sambasivan sir, and he said he's looking at making his finance department as invisible finance. Now, that's the visionary statement, right? And how do you do that? How do you ensure that right from the data collected to the closing of books, everything is automated, right? And that's what we are trying to help our customer achieve as well, that the right value cycle by using the digital workforce. Last thing, very important. So it's how you do it. I've also spoken about the technology we have, but another important thing which has come about very clearly is that wallets are drying up. A lot of CIOs we spoke to, they said that they are looking more at a variable expenses, not fixed, or they're looking more at the OPEX expenditure than CAPEX, and how can organizations can embark on the journey now. And that's where the cloud technology comes very handy, because clouds enable you to provide your own infrastructure. So for example, from Automation Anywhere perspective, bring our own cloud as an infrastructure, which means you do not have to procure your own servers. You can just use the cloud and start building your automation journey. Certainly, the security and the data privacy is of utmost importance, which we take care of. So on that note, I guess I will stop my presentation and pass it on to you. Just one closing comment. I think one significant shift is a lot of roles of CFOs and the CIOs have considerably changed as a result of what we are going through, and they are being looked at to provide the right set of solution to continue to help the organization to continue on a high productivity rate.
No, thanks for that very insightful presentation, Sumit. I think it was obviously great to know some of the perspectives of the leaders during this unprecedented times. The way they're talking about the example that you talked about, the invisible finance department, is something which is a very powerful statement particularly for an Indian CFO to make, because they're still used to a lot of handshakes and sitting across each other's and so on and so forth. I think the last 90 days has obviously unblocked some of those mindsets and also enabled people to think beyond their barriers. They are at least thinking what can be done more. And I think some of the examples you quoted were very insightful. Just building on that further, and I will request maybe if Sanjay, you can just share your perspective. I think, again, I'm just going back to the place where I started with this whole point on digital transformation. I'm just trying to get a sense, how do you set these, if I can say, the priorities of digital transformation? How do you define what is right for your organization? And also connecting with what has been few mantras which has really worked for you in your organizations or your experiences. Just briefly, you can talk about that. Sanjay will be helpful to build the conversation. So what do you, Sanjay?
So Rakesh, can you hear me well and see me as well?
Yes.
Wonderful, good. All right, so good afternoon, everyone, and absolutely a pleasure to be here. And Rakesh, thanks for organizing this virtual conference. I'm really excited to be here to share my perspective, and also looking forward to hearing from my fellow participants and others as well in terms of what's happening in their parts of the world. It is truly unprecedented, right, what we are going through, and very, very challenging times. And I just hope you, your loved ones, family, everybody is safe. And to your question, Rakesh, first of all, I think this crisis, and for that matter, any crisis, is the real test for all of us as leaders. I think there are leaders and companies who remain in a victim mindset in such crisis situations, and there are leaders and companies who see the silver lining and emerge victorious out of this crisis. And it all depends upon how you want to view the crisis. So I think at times as leaders, we also tend to focus on the negative aspects of the crisis, because there's so much of disruption that has come with it as well. And it is important to remember that crises are opportunities for revitalizing the organization. And that's how we are looking at it in Telstra as well. And it can bring to attention issues maybe that have been neglected for quite some time, and as well as present possibilities for innovation and improvement. So absolutely, I think there's a lot of silver lining. While this is a sad situation to be in, not a very pleasant situation to be in, but there are tremendous possibilities which will emerge out of it. And that's the way we look at it. And when I look at last 3-4 months, there's one famous quote I continue to get inspired by, and that is by Winston Churchill, who once famously said, "Never waste a crisis." Right? And then I strongly believe in that notion too. Every crisis, as I said, while it comes with its own share of challenges, there are a lot of opportunities which are hidden in it. And you talk about any significant changes that would have happened in the past, whether these are societal changes or these are organizational changes, they are often triggered by a crisis. You talk about women entering the workforce en masse. This happened after World War II. You talk about the Great Depression in the United States, and that's when state took a larger role. You talk about the oil efficiency. I think that all became prominent after oil crisis in 1970s. So I think all these changes have a long-term impact on the societies. And today COVID-19 is ravaging the world, and it is certain, I think this crisis too will really have significant and long-lasting impacts on how we live our lives and how we operate as an organization as well. And in many cases, I think technology plays a central role to your point about shifting and accelerating trends. And we are actually standing up systems at unprecedented pace to operate in the new reality. And many of these changes will actually remain even after immediate trigger condition passes, right? And they will become BAU, they will become the new normal as we go through this phase. And actually, after all, it is rare for any new build capability to be quickly torn down. And look at the online learning, the boom it is seeing. My daughter attends all her classes now, be it piano or singing online. And I don't know whether she'll actually go back to the music academy, and commuting is so much of a pain in the cities where we live in, right? My dad, who has been suffering from a chronic condition in his late 70s, last 3-4 doctor consultations are all teleconsultations, and he's becoming so comfortable with that. So I really wonder he'll actually go back to this conventional thing, unless there are things for which you need to be physically there with the doctor. So huge changes in the society. From an organization standpoint, I think what is really clear, and Sumit was referring to that earlier, is resilience will play a huge role in organizational strategies in future. And that's where we are also looking at resilience, not just to deal with the disruption, resilience as a permanent feature in the way we manage our business. And at the same time, I think there is a widespread acceleration of automation, digitization. And then for us at Telstra, the number of drivers I can talk about, I think clearly one is robotics and automation, and the scale at which we are moving in that aspect. And the second is also strengthening our COEs. So we have a COE for data, we have a COE for process, and we have a COE for intelligent automation. How do we really bring them together and make our business and processes more resilient? And the third one is about pushing digitization and reducing the customer effort. How do we make it easy also during these times when even customers are going through a lot of pain, right? How do we give them a choice of communication channels that makes it easy, convenient, and fast for them? So I think that these number of initiatives that we are talking about right now, and if you look at our curve of automation or the bots that we have deployed, or number of hours that we have given back to the business, suddenly it has seen a significant surge or uptick since March of 2020. And I can take a few examples here. And interestingly, Rakesh, you were talking about the challenges with the connectivity we have been having since last 3-4 months. And being a telecom player and a provider of essential services, you can imagine the huge role we play to support our customers during these challenging times when most of the people are working from home. Our CEO in Australia actually announced COVID-19 relief packages to help our customers tide over this challenge. So this was about adding extra data to our consumers and small businesses on the postpaid, prepaid packages or the plans that they have with us. And what we did is we adapted one of our existing bots to help customers move to these plans straight from a form on Telstra 24/7 app. So basically you go on your mobile, you just fill up that quick form, and all the components from the customer communications to the web form to the robots being up and running, that was all managed within 3 days. On day one, the bot dealt with about, I think, 35,000 requests to go into the new plans, 0 errors, 24/7 processing. By March, the bot had processed over 1 million customers onto the new plans. And today, I think it's touching almost 2 million customers who have seamlessly moved on to the new plans. And I think the great thing about this bot is that it has been able to move things seamlessly, while manually, maybe it would have taken 9 to 12 minutes for one transaction, one order. And imagine maybe we're talking about some 300,000, 400,000 hours of boring, repetitive, errand-prone work where we actually don't have people also, right? We also having challenges in terms of staffing as well. While in Australia, it is essential services. Some of our operations with our partners who are in India, they were significantly impacted in terms of the effort which was available to manage those transactions as well. So I think this had a significant impact, not just on reduction on effort and productivity, also created an opportunity to give seamless experience to our customers. And this is one example. There are a number of other areas where we are exploring opportunities to scale up automation. And we are always looking at avenues to multiply the bots that are already there with us in terms of building the regular customer orders, which keep coming from time to time. And the other thing we are doing is
Sanjay, if I can stop you. Sanjay, if I can stop you. I'll come back to you in a minute on this. I think I just wanted to take a quick perspective from Sudhir on this, because I think you made a very good point, Sanjay, about this whole, the silver lining even in this situation of crisis. And I think, as you rightly said, never waste a crisis, like from Winston Churchill, I think is very important. And he talked about some of the COEs, like RPA COEs, looking intelligent automation COEs. So where I wanted to get your perspective is twofold quickly, and if you can just quickly give your response on this. One is, are we saying the COEs are required to drive these organization-wide strategy, or it can be a strategy and then you create COEs? How has been your experience? One. And the second one is, a lot of leaders have gone into records to say that work from home has also, or COVID, if I can use the word in a positive sense, has also enabled or accelerated this digital transformation. What has been your experience in your organizational context? So two quick questions, a quick response from you will be helpful.
Okay. No, thanks, Rakesh. And I think good that we all are doing the same huddle, even office and in this forum. I think the way I would like to put it is, yes, we have got COEs. And I think the real fun of the COEs is, are they staying relevant? So the way I would like to look at it is not that, and I think we had the same thing from Sumit, which came up, that I think automation or digitization is no more a productivity game. That is anyway given. But I think what has really gone through a huge change, and I will just keep it as three factors. One, with this COVID environment, the fast and accurate decision making is very important, because most of us are doing this meeting or this work from remote. We don't have chance to go back to the same person 20 times in a day, which otherwise would have been possible. And that also is having, even your decision makers are remotely logged in. So fast and accurate decision making, I would say, is one of the biggest driver for us to do a lot of automation or process simplification or data analytics, which is very, very much important for us, because the failure impact is phenomenal. Second, I would say a very important factor which has come when you connect with your the way you work earlier, is there is definitely a reduction in the trust factor, which means a lot of things you have to do remotely and without much of touch and feel. And I think that's another very important factor, how your customers have suddenly changed. I think that you have to respond as quickly as possible. And then third is the complexity which we are all going through. A lot of uncertainties are coming, a lot of committed orders are getting expanded to next quarter, or some new orders have come in. Having said that, I think I would say these are the three big drivers, how the COE is now responding. Whether it is simplifying the work processes. For example, I'll just take a very typical case. A lot of people are joining us, and I'm sure for all the organizations, who will not see their organization when they come and join, because they are coming from a different location, different organization, coming and not entering into your organization, but remotely logged in. How do you induct these people into a complex process? What kind of a thing you need to do to make sure that the interface is so seamless that your SMEs are interacting with them? And obviously you can't increase the SMEs' effort that they now get dragged into too much of induction on a day-to-day basis. Now you can't do a full huddle of 30 people and do the same induction. So the interfaces between our work processes, between our employee and us, between customer and us, are going through these three layers, which is to do with accurate and fast decision making. Second, how do you make sure that the trust and predictability is maintained? And third, how do you handle on the toes, on the fly, this productive, this positive complexity? So Rakesh, I will just keep it. These are the three big areas which are pushing us to do a lot of automation or process simplification. And this is right from customer to employees to internal work processes.
Yeah, no, I think thanks for that perspective, Sudhir. I think really very nice to hear that. I think just building the conversation further on this, I think you talked about customer in front of you when you're looking at how to to, and I think when Sanjay was talking about how to drive ease for the customer. What I'm trying to step back for a minute is, let's say there's no COVID for a minute. I know it's very easy said than believed. For a minute, let's say there's no COVID, and let's say we were any which ways thinking of going for a digital transformation, going for a lot of these things. And I wanted to seek an input from Sudipto maybe on this. Is, how do you connect this digital transformational activities or strategy? Let's say you talk about RPA, right? Or you talk about your existing applications, the legacy applications, or you look at many of the new age other applications, you name it, and there are many AI, ML, intelligent automations, blockchain, etc., etc. Now, is it about getting a lot of these technologies imbibed and deployed in your organization, or you need to have a very coordinated structure and a strategy? They're saying, okay, I may not be using many of the new age technologies. I may be only using this tool, but this tool is good enough for my context of my organization. And then there's a very clear ROI, there's a very clear return, there's a very clear business benefit attached to it. Or there are many times, obviously, you are going to get better returns from other technology and so on and so forth. How do you balance these two by saying, what is my returns? What is my benefits? How much of that technology or the new age solution is something which is good for me? How to pick it? How to choose it? Any experiential views will be helpful, Sudipto, on this.
Sure. No, I think it's a great question, Rakesh. And thankfully, if I look at the Berkadia journey, we have been on a digitization journey for the last 3 years. And I think what COVID has done to it is it suddenly put it on an extremely fast track. So as it is as an organization, I think we were going through that transformation. And I think the transformation was always focused not on the technology per se, but it was focused on two things. One, what does the client want? And here I'm talking about the end client of the business. So what is the best technology that will deliver the right thing for the client? And look, there are different segments within the client as well. And therefore, it needs to be a combination of the technology that I pick, which serves my clients the best. So it's not about having the shiniest tool or the most expensive toy. That's not the focus. The focus is what's the end product? What does my client gain out of it? I think the second beneficiary of this journey is our people. I mean, people who work day in and day out. If we have a digital transformation and still a lot of my people are, writing Excel macros and, going through the misery of matching numbers on some Microsoft tool or the other, then I think we are not serving the purpose of doing this digital transformation. So I think the choice of technology, and that has been the strategy for us as well, has always been focused at the end beneficiaries. That's what we have kept in mind. We have not necessarily just gone for, what is the latest technology.
I think it's a good input, Sudipto, and makes a lot of sense in the for many of the users to keep in the mind. And so what you're saying basically is keep the relevance in the mind, keep the benefit in the mind. It's not about which toy you're going for. But there's an interesting dilemma to it, and I just wanted to get maybe a perspective from Sandeep Poddar. Sandeep, how do you see sometimes there is a knowledge which you also acquire by knowing about a new application, because you're not even aware of that, right? There are some technology solutions which are not even aware. Like, for example, Sumit today talked about something which they're doing phenomenally well for some of the organizations. Now, many of us are very equipped to know about it. Some of us may be hearing it for the first time and trying to get to know about it. And then you are building on that to connect with your organization and say, oh, this works well for me, and look for it. There are two ways: somebody orienting you, and the second way is you have, as what Sanjay and Sri was talking about, you have the COEs whose role is to keep hunting, keep finding out what is new and what is next, and then seeing how apt they are in my context, how apt they are relevant in my context. What has been your experience, Sandeep, on this, your perspectives?
Thanks, Rakesh, for having me here. who could have imagined that, you come across certain tools and technologies and you know that it was always there in your back pocket. For example, we could have always met virtually in the as many number of years that we have gone through in the industry, but it took a COVID to get all of us together, right? So I know, I think for me personally, and for some of you who don't know, I joined AkzoNobel 3 months ago, and I've been working remotely for the last 3 months. So my entire, and I'm giving just a personal journey because it will really allow all of us to really talk through about how really successful we can be if we really have a digital roadmap. And I'm sure I did hear about the overall customer experience, a touchless office, but I would just kind of talk through a little bit more about how collaborative we can be and successful we can be if we really use those tools effectively. So we have a what I call as bring your own device policy. And when I joined, entire lockdown was there. We couldn't even get a laptop dispatched to my home. And I could really bring my own device, and they were able to configure this remotely. And so far, I've been working for the last 3 months without an official machine, right? So I think this whole ability to work on cloud, make sure that we are able to kind of get into huddle meetings, put our information on SharePoint, make sure that we come together. There was another experience that I can share with you. I think many of you who are based in Maharashtra and Pune, we had a big cyclone and we were probably out of action for at least 48 hours. And that was probably close towards our overall month-end process. Since we used to have SharePoint and cloud and SkyDrive and all our information was there on the cloud, we asked our office in Poland to pick it up and help us in terms of doing the month-end process. So for me, I think this whole proof of the pudding in really putting together what I call is the digital ways of working not only works well with our customers, but also as an employee experience. I remember when we started 4 months ago, we had decided, and of course, AkzoNobel is a little late entrant in the whole shared services journey. From day one, we had everybody on laptops. And it was a blessing in disguise, from the day the lockdown was there, we never had a drop of 1% of the productivity because people were really able to work from home. Also, I think what I've also seen that this whole opportunity that we have got, for example, we talk about employee check-ins, employee engagements. I think using some of these digital tools, for example, using Mentimeter to do check-in, otherwise we could have done this face-to-face when you go to a meeting, how are you doing? I think has helped all of us together in this journey. And digital working in collaboration and ways of working has been a good experience for all of us. And I'm sure I would have had a similar feedback from all my colleagues in the industry as well.
Yeah, and thanks, Sandeep. I think, Sandeep, just to build this question further, because I think you specifically talked about, and I think I really liked it. I think it took us some time, I think the COVID to really bring us together virtually and talking like this. I think otherwise would have been struggling to meet physically in person, taking our time out, traveling, being together at one location is like a big ask. And I think all of us with a lot of different calendars, aligning it becomes really difficult. I think with some of these virtual ways, it is making much easier. I think I just had a question for you, Sandeep, and a quick response from you. And I'll also go back to Sumit on this. Do you struggle sometimes, you as a customer, Sandeep, where there are a lot of technology information is pushed to you? They're saying, okay, go for it. This is good for you. This is A is good, B is good, C is good, D is good, etc., etc. How do you really filter it and create a part of your strategy? How do you look at that? Quick comment from you, Sandeep, before I go to Sumit on this.
I think it's quite simple. I would say that today, when you really look at a forum or using a messenger, you have got choices of anywhere between 3 to 10. If you want to kind of look at overall platforms, we can use multiple platforms. But I think what I find is that it's always good and fit for purpose. For me personally and professionally. So for example, you would be surprised that I'm taking this call from a mobile because I have a broadband at home and it is really working very well for me versus laptops. So when I get, if I may use that word, thrown at my face with multiple options, platforms, technologies, I think I choose which is best suited. And I think I'm quite nimble and agile and flexible as well to throw it off at the next moment to just make sure that I pick up something else which works. And I'll give you another couple of examples what we can probably also do, and we have been doing in our organizational practice as well.
I'll come back to you, Sandeep. I'll come back to you. I just come back to you on this one. I think I just hold on this question. I come back to you to really understand what is best suited. What are the few tips which you have to say, this is what best suited means to me. And I'll come back to you on that one. But Sumit, quick question to you. I think you talked about, and obviously I'm sure as an organization would be talking to many other organizations, there would be times when you would be explaining to them even the basics about, forget about many of the IQ bots, etc. you talked about, even just simple stuff like, RPA and a bot. Is it going to be really somebody walking in? I'm sure there will be still some people. I have met a few people recently who don't know how this really the technology of bot works. Forget about all digital transformation we're talking about. So what has been your takeaway at that situation? How do you orient? Do you provide him what I call as any informed material to take a call and how to progress with it? How do you do that? Is that a question to you, Sumit? Very quickly. Sumit, you're on mute.
Yeah, thank you, Rakesh. I'll answer in two parts quickly and very fast. One is a practitioner. 5 years back, when I was with ANZ trying to do the same thing in Singapore, when I was heading the COE, was trying to educate what the bot does. My then stakeholder thought that there'll be a physical robot who will come pick up the paper and will take it to the photocopy machine to do the photocopy, right? So we can be that far in terms of what you want to basically provide, and what they think is like, that 5 blind men and drawing an elephant. Right? What we do is, first thing is, now see, we got a lot of customers. We have the story depending on where they are in their automation journey. We start with something very fundamental basics, and seeing is believing. We show videos. We basically show some good case studies, and many a times we also organize the sessions with the existing customer so that they can talk to each other and actually empathize with what the challenges are. Right, so make them talk in the same language, and then comes the technology. So the idea is to make them first believe that yes, they have a problem. How we can help them. We are here to help them to solve the problem, and then comes the technology to basically help them out.
I think there is a challenge to what sometimes is get created because of this, orienting about this value of it. And I've seen, and I wanted to hear maybe from Tarun and Sudesh on specifically on this one. Where a lot of times when you communicate about this is art of possibles, and art of possibles are communicated through when they ask for typically a POCs, saying, okay, let's go for a proof of concepts, let's do one process, one area, let's do one bot, and then, something is done, there's a tick in the box, you may get some rewards from your headquarters or your parents saying, okay, I'm going for a journey, but then it dies its own death. So I'll come back to Tarun and Sudesh to seek your inputs on this by saying, how have you managed it? Particularly, both of you are representing a different kind of a large Indian multinationals of the challenges of a very different nature, the demand of the stakeholder very different. Just hold up your responses. I have a poll for each one of you on the panel as well as the audience. So I'm just going to press it out for all of you. Yeah, here it goes. So the question is, what in your opinion is the most impactful value delivery in the organization due to digital transformation and business services, shared services? What is that one most impactful value delivery which you get in an organization? It's for the panelists as well as the audience. I'll give 20 more seconds before we stop the poll. Another 5 seconds, 10 seconds. I can still see there are a few people voting for it. I hope the panelists are done with their votes. Okay.
Yes, we have. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you. So I'm not just going to stop it. Thank you. And I'll come back and share the results in a minute's time. But before I share the results, can I have a comment from Sudesh Yu about the question which we were discussing on the how to look at the POC to scale up? Well, you guys also trapped into this POC situation for your organization. Sudesh, you're on mute.
Yes, Rakesh. So thank you for this question. It's a actually tricky question for all of us. So if you really ask me in our context, what worked well when we were starting about this, specifically RPA as a technology and as a digital journey, there are lots of tools available in the market, and we all know, right? Those 3 or 4 top tools are, all of them are very good. I mean, you compare all of them, kind of they give the same results. So for us, what is the, fitting in the context is was that we wanted to do the RPA on our own. So my criteria for selection of a tool was that the tool should be, so easy that, I can develop the bot on my own, or my team can develop the bot on my own. We should not be dependent on the service providers or, the agencies to develop bot for us. So as a part of POC, what we did is we didn't ask the service provider to develop a bot for us. We asked them to send their engineer to our site, and we asked our team to develop a bot in presence of their engineers, so that we get a comfort that once they are not there, we will be able to do that. And it worked really well. And today I have my own in-house COE, Center of Expertise for RPA, and my accountants are developing bot for us. So the benefit is that they know the context, they know the process, and the delivery is in my hand. So I can prioritize, I can fasten the process, and hence this is working well for us.
Thanks, Sudesh. Tarun, your experience would be
thanks, Rakesh, first of all, for having such a wonderful gathering and such experience webinar. Now, coming to the point, so yeah, I've seen a lot of organizations go for POC. But when we talk about JSW, when we start our journey toward the RPA, we haven't selected a concept of POC. So we went for nothing judgy, but yes, to look for what is value for the organization, how it's going to create a value for the organization. And if we talk about JSW being a Indian manufacturing companies, where we have all major plants in tier 2, tier 3 cities. So change management is one of the critical factor which we kept in mind, because success or unsuccess for a digital journey basically depend on how you are going to drive it. So we didn't went for a POC. We went for a overall analyze what are different product, and there are different product. More important is there are more partner who are ready to implement those products. So it's really a lot of people are open for POC, but important here is what is ease of implementation, whether you implement or someone else is going to implement it. What is the net value which is going to come? Definitely ROI is there. No one is questioning ROI. But yes, how simplified this implementation would be, and how you are going to move the change management. So at our level, we definitely went with a pilot project, but we looked at that processes which can bring more value for the organization. And in place of going with a POC, we created a blueprint and a framework to implement a COE at a first stage, so that it should not be just a tick in the box with the management that, okay, we are running on this journey, but yes, it's more toward how we are going to bring value for the organization. So keeping that in mind, we went for an overall pilot project.
Thanks, Tarun, for that. I think absolutely. I think what I hear from you is that it may be even starting with a pilot or a POC, but what is important is how you connect the value of that POC and then build on that POC to make it organization wide and drive more benefits out of it. I think this is important, and I wanted to get a perspective from Shriram. Shriram, I think this whole question of will it be machine or will it be humans are now it's like over, right? So it's like we know what we call hum-bot organizations where there's a human and there is a bot which is going to work together or remain together. The question is this coexistence. What has been your experience of managing that, these two together? Bringing the people together, bringing the technology together, and getting some of this work in a coordinated manner, getting it done. So Sriram, your perspectives on that.
Sure. So you can hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I think, to add to that, people, technology, and add to that a virus, right? In today's world, the virus is another important criteria that you need to look at in all the scheme of things. And in some shape or form, you're going to have this unknown uncertainty lingering around. Today it's COVID. Somewhere we're starting to get adapted that there's going to be something else in the days to come. So to your question, how is this going to coexist and work out? I think in the past, and we did do, to your point, initial POCs, and ours is a 2+ year old shared service right now, small in scale, around about 300 to 400 people. What happened was, few of us knew what RPA was bringing to the table. Few of us knew what automation was, but the large organization did not. So we had to do a few POCs to start getting the organization warmed up to this kind of, what automation can do, what is the art of the possible. Post that, I think when we started to progress on automation, we realized, people have this huge, factor or creatures of habit, if I may say so. And, you then tell your process to the guy who's coming to automate and tell him, and I'm putting it in very simple terms, I do step 1 to 10, help me automate my step 1 to 10. Okay. And there some guy starts to develop and he says, 1 to 10 can't be automated. 1 to 6 will be. The 7, 8, and 9, you'll have to do some manual interface, and you then live with that, and you do that. Kind of automation started coming into existence. Today, what is changing is, from any kind of automation or digital transformation, the rapidness of implementation is becoming essential. For it to be flexible is becoming essential, and it's having the scalability aspect is huge, right? The other thing that is drastically changing is automation or your transformation were all people centric. You kept the person in the center of things, and I think that's what was talked about resilience in the start of this discussion. Was you kept the person around in the past and did the automation around it. Today you're saying, okay, let's redraw this whole process for it to be automated end to end, without a person as a cog in the wheel. And then how would it look? And that is going back to, the drawing board at times. I'm not saying, and it has to still be, a quick turnaround, and you got, with cost pressures coming, that's not reducing. So with that kind of a challenge, it still has to be nimble. It still has to be quick. It still has to be, you can't go on a 4-year implementation program and stuff. You got to start and end within a fixed period of time. And hopefully, we're being challenged to say the return on investment should be in the same year now. So it is a tough concoction, but it is here to stay, right? So I think the perspective as leaders and organizations has changed towards how you are going to use automation or digitization as an enabler in the end-to-end process.
Yeah, thanks, Shriram. I think you rightly said, the expectations are also changing. I think obviously you first need to orient, get them ready in terms of utilization of some of these technologies. I think also the second part or the last part which you talked about was obviously the expectations of the CFOs or the headquarters is changing in terms of the benefit should not be 3 years down the line. The benefit is now and here, right? So can you just get me something, the impact in this year, then just waiting for the years to come. I just like to seek some perspectives from Dheeraj on this from you. How do you see, in your organizational context, this conflict of saying, go for the transformation, continue with your plans, but don't ask money?
Well, that's everywhere, Rakesh, right? So it's all about, getting the most out of your money, right? But yep, as we all understand that almost all the organizations, right, at this point of time, they are into a survival mode, right? Now, it's where, a lot of CFOs and the CIOs and, the CEOs have to take a quick decision on what exactly they want to do now, right? Now, from our perspective, if I have to talk about, what and where we are heading is basically to look into the optimization of processes, right? And then it's more about preserving the cash, because we all know that COVID is there to stay, right? We don't know how long, how much it's going to take out from the organizations and the people. So the best way and the strategy is to be a bit conservative, use our cash very wisely, and now start looking at where we can make our processes more efficient, make our people more efficient, right? Because I think from a customer perspective as well, I think the demand will definitely change, where they may not be paying you in near term, right? They will still would anticipate that yes, they get the orders being created for them and shipped out to them, but at a reduced cost as well, right? So a lot of strategy has to come in picture, right? From looking at from a customer experience, the customer requirements, and then what exactly you can do at the back end in your organization, where you want to save the money for yourself for unprecedented time, which, as I said, we don't know how long it is going to go. So I think what we are looking at this point of time is, yes, optimize our processes, right? Look at the feasibility of where we can cut out the cost, right? How we can simplify our processes, right? So a feasibility of around what can be done, and then we are going to look at then how we are going to do that, right? So and then what we're also trying to do is basically not just look at from an IT perspective that yes, we want to go for automation, but we are also trying to build a collaborative approach that we bring all the functions together. We talk, we look at the areas which can be improved, which can be automated, and then come up with a plan that, okay, yes, this is what the cost is going to be, this is what the benefits are going to be, and then do we go or no go, right? Because still we are saying that we want to preserve the cash, but when we start doing the automation journey, there's definitely we are going to shell out a lot of cash as well, right? And God forbid, we are battling COVID at this point of time. We never know what is going to come up in later stages as well. So I feel all the organizations should be all ready to move ahead within a journey which helps them to automate their processes, look at their customers, and then more importantly is to survive, right, for some more time.
Hey, Rakesh, if you allow me to add, I think this whole discussion about digital or other hybrid workforce, like humans and machines coming together, and should it be unsupervised bots, or should it be supervised bots, or what should be the proportion of automation in a process versus a human works? I think it's quite fascinating the way you look at it, and and some of you may disagree with me, but I see there's a gap between the aspiration and the ground reality, right? I don't think there will be processes which will be 100% done by machines. There could be some, there won't be many, right? At the same time, I don't think there will be processes ever which will be 100% done by human beings, right? Again, there could be some exceptions here and there. So I think that always this combination will always be there, and I think the capital is also becoming scarce, right? Do you really want to put in money where you're not 100% sure about your return? And to the earlier point of step 1 to 10, where 1 to 6 can be done by humans, and maybe 7 to 10, we don't want machines. 1 to 6 can be done by machines, but then 7 to 10, we don't want machines to do that, because those are exceptions, and maybe the ROI doesn't justify putting efforts on that one as well. So I think it will always remain in a zone wherein you have to figure out what works best for your business and your process.
Yeah. I think, Sanjay, thanks for coming in. I think just a quick comments from you on this 2 parts, and very quick comments from you. I think you rightly talked about this balance of machine and human. How do you see the question which I was discussing with Dheeraj a little while ago about the CFOs of the headquarters not opening their wallets, and where someone like you who have done it, experienced it, the merit of it, the value of it in the past avatars and the past organizations, sometimes talking with a stakeholder, and maybe true for you or may not be true for you, but a stakeholder who is not yet believing the value of some of the propositions which are bringing on the table, what would you do and what you are doing now?
Yeah, I think to me, POCs make perfect sense in today's scenario, as I said, where capital is becoming so scarce and money is so difficult to get. And I'm a big fan of thinking big and starting small, right? We all need to think big, but then when it comes to making changes, when it comes to experimenting with new technologies, why should I commit upfront at a scale where it may be difficult for me to retract tomorrow if I see challenges in terms of the value it is giving to my business? So, and I think a lot of times, maybe as businesses, we need to stick our neck out. Of course, the CFO job would be to put it in a corner and say, I don't have the money, but somehow you have to figure out something for your POCs, because if you're looking at mass expansions or a mass deployment of anything, you need big funds. But when you talk about doing things on a smaller scale, I am sure there are ways to figure out money from your regular budgets. And that's what we look at doing. And the kind of things I was talking about earlier, we're actually right now building chatbots. Now I look at my major call drivers when the customers are calling in for new connections and we have to build the orders. Now, there are a number of those drivers which are very standard in nature, which does not have much judgment involved in that one. Now, for those ones, again, if I go for big bang plan, I need a lot of money, but maybe I pick one or two top drivers and start playing around with it, start doing some POCs, show some results, and that's what creates the excitement in the broader organization also. Yes, it is possible. Yes, it is possible to scale up a tool. So that's what my view is. I think these POCs make really, really good sense purely from a ROI standpoint as well.
Sure. Okay.
And Rakesh, just to add to that, I think it cannot be a big bang, right? At the kind of stage we are. So I think I do agree with Sanjay that, you need to think big, start with small, right? Because the way the technology is also changing has to be factored in. By the time you agree on some X thing to be deployed, right? And by the time you deploy it, the timeline is huge. The entire concept is going to be scrapped off, right? So all those things has to be kept in mind as we keep looking at the cost factor as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Sanjay, and thanks, Dheeraj, for this. And I'll just go back to Deepak. I can see you, Deepak, as well on the screen. So I'll come to you on the same question. Just hold on with your responses. The same question about the POCs and the CFO's wallet. I'll just come back to you. Before that, I'll just share the results of this poll quickly for all of you. The results, I hope you can see on the screen now. This is very interesting, isn't it? So the people are having it's quite spread across multiple options, and but still one of the options stands out very clearly still is about decision transformation and getting that real-time analytics.
Can't see your screen, Rajesh.
Can others can see it? Sanjay?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yes, I can see that as well.
Right.
Yep.
So I think very, very, very evident that the decision transformation is one of the focus areas or the impacts which organizations are seeing thanks to some of this digital transformation. And the next best is obviously the control, the governance and compliance. Where I'm still was expecting to see many of the people saying it really impacts not just the cost, but even revenue generation. Very limited responses on that. And I just want to get that perspective from Sudhir as I come back to you on that. But before that, Deepak, quick comment from you on the managing this challenge of this POC or balancing between this POC and the fund allocation from the headquarters or the CFO saying, okay, it's a difficult time, do what you want to do. How will you balance that? And I think the POC, as we talked, I think there's a merit and a demerit. The merit is obviously you get to see it. The challenge is, sometimes, this POCs for some reason was not successful. The change in the leadership, whatever it had happened, it dies its own death. It doesn't become really the strategy. It becomes one experiment. Successful, go for it, not successful. So how do you balance between these two, considering the fund allocation in the unprecedented times, Deepak?
I think a very valid question. POC is a gateway to the change because As Sanjay was putting it, you might be aware on what bot can do, but the larger organization don't really know. So from that perspective, I think POC is a very, very important tool. However, we need to really balance because there's a lot of money that is going as an outflow. So what you need to do is basically pick something which impacts the large number of people. And you have to take that calculated risk, because if it fails, you will fall on the face. But if it succeeds, then it actually, a lot of people get automatically convinced about it. So you have to choose very wisely. A very calculated risk needs to be taken, and then you need to plan your POC that it impacts all important stakeholders positively. And then of course you have to put your best guys in between. So that way is, while the POCs is getting implemented, the most important thing is, even if I take the POC and get it implemented, and if it is not significantly impacting large number of people, so people are reluctant or very easily say that, okay, that does not impact me, or it will not be successful in my area because we have these exceptions, or this is a niche business, or this is thing. So you have to plan your POC very strategically so that it impacts all important decision makers and stakeholders in their areas, so that a positive vibe can be created. Now, there is a calculated risk on what you do and what you don't do, and that is what the entire game is. I mean, the POC has a cost, so you should at the same time use it not only for your basically showcasing, but also to involve important stakeholders in that, so that their areas, from their areas, they also see positive impact out of it.
Yeah, I think Deepak, thanks for that quick comment. I think you are also reinforcing that point that there is a merit in terms of going for a POC and getting the quick wins, getting the value of POC, and then building it further. Absolutely. I'll come back to you on a couple of quick points, Deepak. Before that, I just wanted to check quickly from Sudhir, you on this whole poll results. I'm a little intrigued with this. They're still talking about decision transformation. They're still talking about analytics. I was expecting people to say, "Oh God, digital transformation. This helps me to grow my business, the top line." And so you guys are supposed to be a capability center, value center. So are you becoming still a back office or a value center? Sorry, a straight question to you.
Yeah. So I think I will give. I'll go back to what those 3 points I was referring to.
Yeah.
Is the fast and accurate decision making. Reason being, we were all used to take a U-turn because we were in a physical world. What has gone now different? We might be thinking that we are doing the same work, but the leadership, the person nodal who is taking decision, whether it's a CFO or a CIO or you as a business leader, the concurrence of a thought process will not be done 20 times. It has to happen. Reason being, if you don't do it today, your competitor will do it today, and then you will be a laggard. And that's exactly what the sharpness is going to happen in every industry. Though we are talking about few industries having a problem in terms of how they will survive, etc., etc. But I think it's a matter of time that we will all face that kind of a pressure on cash is king, decision is faster. Your customers will be restless. And again, that's exactly where the human side of this automation is going to come very actively. So really, if you look at the topmost layer of where automation or digital way of working will come, is how fast and accurate decision we take. And I'll give you a very, very simple example. While this lockdown was happening across India, we had to support one of our very critical customers, Indian Oil Corporation. We had to also support the grids which are across the country, as a web. Now, when you do this, and I'm sure all of us have these kind of clients, you don't have the luxury of sending your best person to go to the site and take a calculated technical action. All of that has to be done remotely sitting in your office, so that a junior guy who's at the site, your site leader, can take those actions. And these are 0-1 action. Either you do it or you fail. There's no trial. Now, where is that point of action going to come? Precisely because you're not physically even looking at the tower, or you're not looking at the location. Now, that's where I think the whole digital way of working between human and whether it is a bot or a digital play has to happen, where few fundamental decisions or I would say leadership traits will come very active. I think that's where, as leadership, that's a very important aspect, that it is not that you have got 5 coders in your office who are doing along with your SME a work process automation. Reason being, these people are not in one location. And I think that is the forced scenario we have to create for ourselves, because that's exactly where Sanjay was referring to. There's a huge possibility which we have not even tapped till now. And I think the positive side of this COVID environment is we are forced to think that.
So if I can just build on this point, which is saying the value which you have not tapped, and just trying to add a question to it, and if you can give a quick comment on it, is how much today the shared services organizations or business services organizations steps back at the time of creating their annual operating plan, creates a value potential as a part of their strategy, not the productivity saves, the value potential as a part of their AOP, and say, this is the kind of value I commit to my parent, I'll be able to deliver. And for this is the kind of digital transformation I'll be able to do. And hence you ask your partner, whoever your digital transformation partner, to support you drive that. Not productivity save, the value potential to the parent. Do you think this is something which many of the GICs are doing, or they yet to do that?
I would say it is happening, but I think we are predominantly getting driven by headcount and scale. I think the way we have to also start thinking is that GCC is anyway a format to bring scale. That's inherent to the way it is happening, right? It is inherent that there is a cost avoidance or cost saving because there is a labor arbitrage which we have been playing. Where I think now the scenario is, and I think there's a positivity now. The people who have been giving the work to us, they are also in the same environment. In fact, I have gone through a stage, and I think Sudipto can refer to some of it and many of you, where how we can work remotely, a work process was to be taught to our so-called stakeholders, because they were not even comprehending that this can be done in a thousands of kilometers or miles away. We have gone from that stage where now even the sender is also COVID driven, remotely working into a small room, and both of you are collaborating. So that whole genesis that you are one up and you are sending and we are the delivery arm, that balance has gone parallel now. So the whole organization is flat because all of them are going through the same unknown, which even the delivery arm is going through. Now I'm just referring to this IOC example. Even the customer was having the same skill set and same knowledge about the scenario because he or she has also not handled it. I think that's where our advantage comes, that we should let go the feeling that the sender is more knowledge than us. And I think that's where we have to step up to understand where we can bring value, even if it is a small.
I can see Sudipto wants to add to it. Sudipto, you would like to specifically add to it by saying value potential and the productivity saves. Have you experienced something around that?
Absolutely, because like Sudhi said, I mean, we've been in the offshoring business I started from 97, and I think it was about the same time Sudhi, right? And so we have seen this whole industry getting turned on its head in what was thought to be doable versus what's being done now. And that journey continues. And I totally agree with Sudhi saying that it's almost a parallel, because that whole advantage of knowledge is not there. In fact, I would probably go a step ahead and say now the knowledge has really shifted to the GICs in a large number of processes. And therefore the expectation from our parent is that we should play a more seat on the table role, where we suggest how things can be done better, more efficiently, more productively. The efficiency, productivity doesn't go away, but in the way it's been demanded for is all about value. So therefore, when we go, now probably we'll go virtually and set the strategy for the GICs, it definitely will have an element of the value proposition. The cost is a given. It doesn't go away. If the cost goes away, I think we've lost the game.
Right.
Yeah.
That has to be there. But the value
So,
is built on that.
Rakesh, I will just
So,
give one
Rakesh.
more example. Just to share what Sudipto said, that the knowledge is now residing in the GIC, driven by the point one, which we got as a maximum voting. Think of a process where you are monitoring, sitting in one small room in India, about some 3,000 oil tankers which are in the sea. And when this whole thing of oil consumption went down, nosedive, these tankers could not be unloaded. And behind these tankers are also some fleet of 1,000 more tankers which were moving towards the shore with the assumption that the first in, first out process is working. And within 4 days, we understood that these tankers cannot be unloaded. Now that knowledge of pinpointing which carrier, which tanker, which altitude, what level of load that fellow is carrying, and then you have to afloat, which means you have to constantly keep your engine on. That optimization was not ever needed, because that's how, maybe 5 tankers will have a problem ever, but not every tanker will have a problem. Now, that's exactly the point where the value of a GIC got realized, that, oops, shit. Now there is one node where I can handle all these tankers. I'm just giving you one example. Just if you imagine the scenario we are in, and it is absolutely driven by the third point I was talking about, the positive complexity. I think we should pray that more complexity should come where we can wedge in the value discussion.
Yeah, and I think it's a good
Rakesh.
point. Sandeep,
Yeah, Rakesh, if you allow me. So let me connect this with the example of JSW, because normally we see concept of GIC come in picture where there is a labor arbitrage. Now think about an organization, heavy metal industry, where plants are in tier 2, tier 3 city. So it means every resource which I'm going to put in my GIC is going to increase my cost. So efficiency, cost, I would say these are now hidden. You don't have to even express that this can be delivered or not. That's hidden. You have to do it. Now it's about what value you are going to create for our organization. And if I take it further, here within JSW GIC, our annual operating model depend on what value we are going to create for our organization. For example, now this COVID is the best example where if things, document are flowing in plants for processing, they all went on a stuck. My scanning people cannot scan that. So how quickly GBS can set up a parallel environment which will not depend on person, which can run on backbone of system. And we have created a replica of scanning center within this GIC at people sitting in their home. So from a scenario of different people sitting with auditor performing activity to a scenario where people are performing up to balance sheet and board meeting through with the HumBot organization. And not only that, see now GIC has to start thinking they cannot depend on customer always for knowledge. They have to bring knowledge on the table. They have to share based on whatever knowledge they have gained it, what next level of information can be available. Like, so they talked about a lot of tankers sitting there, how we can quickly provide that information on a more real-time basis to the management, which can help them to take a quick decision. So yes, now we have to move more toward a value. And as Sudipto said, cost and efficiency is predefined. We have to give that. We cannot go away with that.
Okay, let me bring an example here of a European customer. GIC, big GIC over here in Bangalore. So, we spoke about the world is flat, but it wasn't flat on day one, right? Some parts of the geography got affected by COVID sooner than India, right? And what happened as a result of that is a lot of volumes suddenly surged and had to be responded to from the GICs here, right? So how do you basically ensure that the KPIs, the KRAs are met, the customer impact is, in a measurable way, not too impacted. And that's where, human bot collaboration, which came into picture, and how we can provide that value with the help of technology so that the end customer is not impacted irrespectively from wherever they are served. Right. So that's the big value, keeping the customer in the center. GIC come forth in terms of helping the headquarters.
Yeah, I think thanks for all of you to just give perspective. I still have a question in the mind, and I just want to park that point for a minute, and I'll come back to that very quickly once again. And I can see a couple of you very, very much ready to respond to this as well. But I just park it for a minute because I think what I'm looking for is still a challenge to some of the GIC leaders, and I would like to surely ask that question back. But before that, moving a little bit of a gears to say, we're talking about this HubBot, we're talking about digital transformation. Actually, if you ask me, I think at a shared services forum where a couple of years back, we did a lot of research around it and we realized it is not about just digital transformation. It is about digital metamorphosis. Because it is not just about, as I said, it's not about one instance. It's about a multiple instances, multiple journey, which finally bases your organizational current readiness. You keep changing your form and shape. Now that to happen, you need to look at, as in Sudipto was talking about, in your organizational context, and I think Sandeep also talked about, in your organizational context, what is best suited. And I would request Sudipto and Sandeep, if you can talk specifically about what is best suited for you. How to look at leveraging your existing technology, your existing core ERP, how much you are able to really leverage that. You're just bringing left, right, and center new technology, or you are also using something which you already have, and then you are getting into the right kind of add-on tools to support it, or also just build a question further. There are a lot of this terminologies like AI, blockchain, etc. People talk about how well this has been used. Is it like this? You're using it because I know, for instance, somebody I was talking with who was saying I'm using blockchain as a workflow because that's all I can get the value out of it. So is that the kind of situation which you are also facing? Sandeep, you and Sandeep, you go first on this.
Right, very interesting, Rakesh. I think I can probably share that I was supposed to be in Amsterdam this week. We were planning to have a half-year strategy session, and we had colleagues all over from 5 centers we were supposed to discuss. And this was exactly the topic that came up, right? We were talking about the whole study from Gartner about hyper-automation. What do we do with AI, blockchain, ML? And you would be surprised that there were no takers, to be very frank, because what we thought is that our processes are still to be kind of consolidated. We operate in 88 countries, and each one of them typically, we have got 145 ERP systems. So the money to get from the executive committee at this point of time was to make that consolidation done. And we thought that it's better to kind of create one common ERP engine. So to your point, you're right that I think some of this are really evolving. But at the same time, what we have also done is that we have created some fantastic proof of concept. And I was just kind of coming earlier on 2 topics. I think one about start small and then build later, pick up some topics. And then again, how to create value. I'll probably kind of connect all 3 together, if you allow me, Rakesh. This whole idea of why do we need robots, right? Very early on, we looked into a particular process that vendor was not paid on time. And when we realized that why they are not paid on time, because somebody doesn't do a GR. And we had put as many number of MIS to demonstrate that to all our colleagues across the globe, but it was really difficult to influence them. So we put a bot. And we said that every time the vendor doesn't get paid on time, you find that 85% of the chances that the GR is not done on time. So the value comes from there, not just about kind of looking at cost, because I think the data, the knowledge, the analytics that comes from the engine automatically has got more trust. And I think Sudhir was talking about trust. I think it really gives you that trust. And especially if you're coming in shared services, I think it's very, very important to do that. The other one is about really looking at how do we create value. I think this whole COVID created a great opportunity for all of GVS, specifically for us. There were 5 work streams that were formed. And of course, cash is the king at times like this. We were supposed to kind of put together a whole program on collections and payables. And you would be surprised that we were able to put together day on day, week on week, the entire cash flow on payables, collections, and making sure that the organization is able to really get into those values. So I think value probably may or may not really look into, let's say, revenue, but also in terms of profitability and margins and cash flows. And finally, coming back on this whole usage of technology and MI, I think we are probably slightly conservative. I think even earlier in a previous role as well, I had burned my fingers and really putting together too many things together, and without getting the data structures, without getting the, I think you did mention, right, is if you get your processes right, if the basics are right, I think it's an automatic transformation of applying something on top of it and making sure that it runs faster and smoother.
Thanks, Sandeep. So Dipto, as you come into this topic and just give your perspective, I'm just going to launch another poll. So just let me just do that. And that is this topic which we'll talk after. So Dipto's your comment. So here you guys go. I'll give a minute. So the question is, which element influences the organization's digital quotient the most? We talk about IQ, UQ, all that stuff, and now we're talking about DQ. So what really influences the organization's DQ? I can see people are taking time to respond. Okay.
See, that's a dicey one. That's why, Rakesh, we are taking time.
I'll give another 20 seconds for it. I can see some of the panelists are still to go for it. Another 5 seconds. Okay, we'll stop. We'll come back on the results in a few minutes of time, but before that, so Dipto, over to you to receive your perspective on this specific point we're talking about.
So I think we're talking about digital journey here, and when I think about my organization, where we are, and also think of some of the other organizations I work for, and probably it's very similar to all the organizations being represented here too, but that's an assumption though. It really feels like India as a country, because when I describe India, I always say that here centuries coexist, and where we are today, it's a combination of the highest end cloud-based technology on one side, and still we have in certain areas archaic systems which are like 40 years old or something like that, and they all work together, and there's a huge human effort to make these talk to each other or even work differently on different systems at the same time. But I think when I think of the plan, the approach, it's pretty holistic. So what we're talking about here is having a plan for every function to get to a certain stage of digitization. And it's always a combination of human beings and whether it's bots or AI, ML, OCR. I mean, it's a combination of all of that. And that's really the journey that we are on. In fact, one of the things earlier, Rakesh, you were saying, some of the challenges that we had faced. And one of the challenges that I can talk about, when we had embarked on this journey, was that, there was a set of people who knew where we are going. Okay. Everybody else in the organization knew where we are. And really nobody was connecting this where we are to where we are headed. And my challenge was that, unless the junior most guy working on a desk understands that journey, I think we'll end up doing a disservice for the organization. So that was an initial sort of challenge / failure that we had. We of course, launched a campaign, did a lot of communication around getting people on board with this journey.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Ajay. Yeah.
I'm saying you have been asking us questions. It is only fair that we also get a chance to ask you a question. So I have one question for you.
Oh, go ahead. I mean, ideally this format doesn't allow you to, but I think in the all interest of the friendship, please go ahead.
Well, just a comment on the first poll, which we did. And then I have a very interesting perspective on that. When we were talking about the biggest impact that digitization has on the organization and which area, and I think there were options around revenue generation, cost efficiency, controls and compliance. I didn't see customer experience improvement there, which is a huge area of focus when it comes to digitization and making it easy, convenient to the customer, which in turn starts influencing revenue generation and all other things that we were talking about that. And any perspective on that?
No, I think it's a very good point. I think you just caught that one miss, if I can say. I think we deliberated, and when we were creating these polls, we deliberated in terms of how many options we can keep in the options, right? And typically from a shared services forum point of view, we actually defined value delivery about a year and a half back, because there was a lot of this value delivery and business impact was so much used. And again, I'll say abused in terms of any conversation which you're having. So we defined what is value delivery in a business services context. And based on a lot of interaction with leaders like yourself, we put it into 3 boxes by saying that, and they're all interconnected. We said one box is, or one dimension is business impact, which is financials, the EBITDA impact, the balance sheet impact side of it, which could be top line, could be cost, whatever it may be, but you're really touching the P&L of the parent in some form and fashion. That is one part of the overall value delivery. The second part of the value delivery is all your governance, compliance, etc., which you could also see in the poll was pretty much part of it. The third dimension is a significant upsurge of the customer experience, which is very critical. I think whatever you do now, value delivery is absolutely all about significant upsurge. The challenge which we are finding these days, Sanjay, is still, despite so much of communication, conversation, interaction, webinars, enough we're talking about from the webinar perspective, but still people are correlating customer experience with customer satisfaction. Okay, they're not able to really still appreciate who is my customer and what customer experience means. So we still feel there is a little bit of a more deliberation which is required to talk about the significant upsurge of customer experience. Because otherwise you would have found, if I had that option of customer experience, 60% people would have opted for it by saying, oh, I have impacted customer experience, without even applying that customer experience is very different than customer satisfaction. Right. That is one of the reasons why there was a logistics region as well by saying number of options. At the same point of time, we also deliberated by saying which ones to really fit in as a part of the poll. But a good point from you, Sanjay, to bring it up. So I just wanted to build, I think, Sanjay, just you and Shriram, I'll request if you can comment on a specific point. And we had this just a poll now on digital quotient. Typically, like, we have been hearing this IQ and EQ for a long time, and now we're talking about DQ. And without DQs, I mean, DQ is becoming part of even recruitment process for some of the mid managers and above in some of these areas, by saying how much of digital aptitude you have as a part of the recruitment process is what is being assessed these days. The question is, have we really evolved as a shared services organization to assess what is my DQ of the organization? It's a measurement. DQ is typically talking about you baseline it, you measure it. So first you baseline your maturity by saying, are you on a level 0 when you started? Are you a 2 Sigma? I'm just using a Sigma reference by saying you are a 2 Sigma and you became 4 Sigma, or you are a 4 Sigma and you became a 6 Sigma, right? Or you are aspiring to become 6 Sigma without even knowing where you are. Your baseline is 2 or 1 or 3 or 4, you don't even know. You're just trying to build and bring some technology solution. So what has been your experience of baselining it and saying, this is my measurement around my digital quotient or the digital maturity of my organization, and these are the few things I must do before I create my digital transformation strategy? Is something which you have experienced, and how do you advise the others? So Sanjay, you and Shriram. Sanjay, first you go. Very briefly, I'm just conscious of the time. I have a couple of more major topics to touch upon. So Sanjay, you and Sriram, please.
I'll try my best to be brief on this one. So I think that the poll question was also quite tricky, as Sandeep was saying. Tricky in the sense we had to choose out of all the great options which were there. And the one I chose was, this was what continuous promotion of digital culture. I think that was clearly my choice. And then it's clearly a journey, right? It's not a destination when we talk about digitization, right, in the organization. And even now in this current situation, challenging situation also, when we are talking about it, we are also grappling with some of the challenges in terms of, one, how do we reduce dependence of bots on humans, right? How do we create more unsupervised bots? I think that's one. And how do we really, and that again, it's going back to the conventional issue of how do we eliminate the issues first, and then we create some self-serve options, and then we get into some less intrusive channels, and then comes the voice as a channel for our customers as well. So I think it is about evolving, and the real magic is when you start integrating RPA with intelligent automation, and that's when you unlock the next wave of opportunity. And that's where today we're looking at email ingestion, we're talking about NLP, we're talking about chatbots, OCRs, playing around with new channels with the customers. And none of these shifts we are talking about are new, right? They are all pre-existing, just that these are getting accelerated given the situation we are in.
So how do you rate your past organization and the current organization in terms of digital maturity? Will you say, I'm just taking a names for the sake of taking it, saying your last organization, say last organization A and current organization T, without naming these two organizations, you have to say digital maturity. The size of the organization could be different in terms of number of FTs. Is that also a deciding factor of looking at the digital maturity? Or there are some other areas, how well you have leveraged your existing solutions, technologies, how well you are able to deliver back to your customer, deliver the experience, etc., etc. How will you say, was that 3 sigma, this is 2? And don't go with the sigma as a word, but typically I'm looking at a DQ perspective. How do you say that?
Yeah, so you're putting me on spot, Rakesh. I don't think I can actually, to be honest, put a number there. It is all up, and then start actually measuring by, say, number of bots or number of roles we have eliminated. I think that becomes a very narrow definition of looking at how you're doing that. And it is all about sizing up the opportunity which is ahead of you, and how much of that you are tapping today will tell you where do you stand in the digitization journey.
Right. I think you made a very good point. It's not about the number of FTs. It is not about the number of bots. It's about, in your organizational context, you have to baseline it and say where you are and what next for you. So I think it's a very good point. So Sriram, wanted to hear your perspective on this whole digital quotient and baselining. Because I think, as you rightly said, in the last 2 years, your shared services I've seen has tremendously moved towards adopting some of these digital solutions. You have been first, managing your house, putting your house in order in terms of processes, etc. Now you're moving towards all this digital adoption. What is your experience of digital maturity and baselining that from a DQ point of view?
So, to answer your question first out, is there a score? There is no score, and I don't think we've gone that path of getting a digital maturity score on the table. But to what Sudipto said in the past, it is how much that vision which is there for that digital roadmap or digital transformation, as you want to call it, how much of that has got down to the bottom of your shop floor. How much of those people out there can connect, can relate, can contribute to that? Otherwise, you're going to have one organization which is steering the ship in a particular direction at a particular speed, and the other side of the organization is not playing catch up. We did have a few brainstormings earlier this year. This is a pre-COVID discussion, and honestly, during this time, some of those executions have enhanced. And this is also dovetailing to your past question of using existing invested enterprise solutions, right? So when we went back to say, where do we want to take our finance organization further, we realized we had already invested in core ERPs not so long ago, 4 years ago. We've created our industry being a little unique from a ship management standpoint. We've got our own self-created, ERP implemented, which cuts across all processes. So there was this great ERP there, but there were facets of it which either paucity of time, paucity of money, have to get this project done and wrapped up, just didn't happen. Or that day it was too complex to get it done. But 4 years down the line, there is today technology, there is today newer solutions which can bolt on or fix those loose ends, for which bulk of the shared service and other parts of the organization is still doing a lot of effort to get that output. And a classic example is, we support a lot of vessels, and there is no one press of a button vessel profitability report which comes out, which means multiple groups of people need to work with multiple numbers at the end, and then before the 15th of a month they have to get together and get this semi analytical outcome, which then starts giving you a database to make decisions. And this was a feature which that old technology should have or could have done, but then obviously when you got to doing it, multiple challenges came, and we overcame it by saying, let's not get another new technology in, but let's fix our old technology using newer tools, right? Some part of it is a bot, some part of it is a bolt on dundas on top of that, and now you are having a concatenated solution which is giving you great results, and it is solving business problems. So it's not a whole lot investment, and I think that is how digital maturity across the organization is now progressing, at least in organizations like that of ours, but not with an attempt of driving it to a score point or of things like that.
Yeah, so Sridham, I think thanks for being honest about by saying there's no score, but obviously you have done your bit in terms of strategy and baselining more through parameters, and that's very, very right to hear that. I think just to let leaders like you and many others on the panel and joining in, Shared Services Forum actually created a model to baseline your current digital maturity and saying where you are and what are opportunity for you as you go ahead. In fact, the model we created was called Tech Integrated Business Services a few years back, and a couple of years back, to say how you look at your current maturity and what's next for you. Creating, and it gives you an opportunity to do an informed, if I can say, a digital transformational journey which you can evolve. This is your current baseline. I would like to go to Sudesh quickly to check with you. I think we talked about doing an RPA and center of expertise. Typically from a kind of company which you are very diversified, I think the kind of work which you do is in everything possible, and large scale. And still there's a if I can say, the organization is also heavily India-centric, promoter-led organization, and in that company which you're talking about, driving RPA as a center of expertise, there are a lot of businesses, and the businesses will have their own reluctance to go for any of this change. They were used to, in your context, seeing those employees sitting next to them, right? And they know you, in part of your shared services, has taken those employees, and now they're sitting in a different office. Now either you are trying to eliminate that employee, or you're bringing an RPA to it, etc., etc. How has that journey been? How have you taken your customer along and doing this entire journey of end-to-end of the process, Sudesh?
So, Rakesh, if I have to talk about RPA as a COE within the shared services which we are in, so what we did is, first of all, we implemented RPA within the shared service center itself. So we showed the art of possibility to the management and to the customers also, that this technology, what can this technology give, basically. And then we started doing a roadshow within the Adani group, and what we were talking to each business is that what value we will bring through RPA. It's not about only reduction of manpower or reduction of effort, but few things which are not possible manually or through the other systems. The RPA can deliver that. If I have to quote one or two examples here, for example, we are in a port business, and we have lots of ports in India. So the weather forecast is very, very critical for a port operation, basically. If weather changes, it impacts the port operations. So previously, for all these ports, the weather forecasting and the coordinates of this port, manually generation of weather forecast was not possible every 15 minutes, 20 minutes. So people used to do it after 2 hours, 3 hours. Through RPA, what we have done is we have scheduled all these things. So my bot goes on the weather website, take out the coordinates and give the weather forecast to the businesses. So this is the value actually which we are delivering, which was not practically possible previously. So it's not about reduction of manpower, reduction of efforts, but also what are the additional value you bring to the table. So same is the example in the power distribution business, where the screening of invoices were not practically possible manually for people. So we automated that through RPA. So this is how, you know, the value which was shown to the customers, and now it is kind of hit in the organization. So every day I'm getting 10 or 15 different, you know, requirements for automation, and I've built a center of expertise here, not the center of excellence. So my team is, you know, expert in the bots. So what we do is we develop bots for the businesses, but we don't run for them. We develop and give it back to them so that they can run as per their own convenience. So we are keep on building bots and giving back to the business. So that is how we are managing it.
Well, that's a very fantastic point that you made in terms of how to get the businesses onboarded and talking about this center of expertise and how do you really support your business is very powerful. I would like to come to Dheeraj and Deepak and to take a specific point. Dheeraj and Deepak, both your comments in terms of now we're talking about this whole digital and digital maturity and driving the digital quotient and moving from a baseline to the next level. You know, to drive that, obviously there's a very, very clear need to have the right level of culture in the organization, the right level of sponsorship in the organization, the right level of understanding within the organization to drive some of these. And there's an execution capability. If I can use the word, there's a digital maturity and there's a digital quotient for execution which is required to go for it. Just hold on with your response for a minute. I'll just share the results of the poll, and I request Dheeraj first, you, and Deepak after that. So I'll just share the results of the poll. Okay, Sanjay, here you go. Right, continuous promotion of digital culture is I think is very widely ticked by people. Polling, they're saying this is one of the important element which influences the digital quotient of the organization, how well you are promoting the digital culture of the organization. Obviously, the next best could be the utilization of the existing enterprise technologies. So I think that's very interesting to see about this culture is very important. The digital culture, if I can say, is very important for digital quotient. And I think that's the question which I have for you, Dheeraj and Deepak, to build on it, your perspective, how you drive this digital culture to drive the digital quotient. Dheeraj, go first.
Sure, I think that's very important, Rakesh. I think everybody know, right, that they have to jump out of this bus, right? It's very important for survival.
Sorry, Dheeraj, as you just go for this response, just sorry to cutting you. I think I'll request the other panelists. There are a lot of questions which is coming in the Q&A section. They are specifically directed to few of you. Even if it is not directed to you, if you are interested to respond, please take your time, respond to those questions, because we may not be able to take all the questions as part of this panel. I'm just trying to cover a few of that as a part of this discussion. But it will be great if you can respond to these questions as well from your Q&A. Thank you. Dheeraj, back to you.
Sure, thanks. Yep, so I think what I said is it's very important for all the organization to get onto the bus, right? Because, you know, and as we see the future, this is going to be the survival mode where we get our businesses doing, you know, efficiently. The important thing is the common perception, what we see is that when we talk about digitalization and the RPAs and automations and all that, that IT is the responsible function to drive this and you know, get the things done. But I think that's not going to solve any kind of output, because there are many functions in the organizations which they have to come together, talk to each other, collaborate, keep out their best person out of you know, their functions, and then talk together. I'm a big fan of you know, the COEs. We heard you know, Sudipto and Sudhir talking about having the COEs where, you know, we need to make them very relevant. We have to make them very vibrant, because they are, you know, the kind of people and the team which is going to drive the outcomes coming in from the strategy, right? So it's all about what to do. It's all about how to do. And unless you create a kind of awareness culture within the organization, right, it will just be a kind of a tick box within, you know, from the management perspective to look at. But if we need to be effective, I think we need to be highly aware what's happening around. We need to collaborate with all the functions in the organization, get the leadership on board, and get your best people around around the strategy.
And add to that, I think culture plays a significant role in kind of differentiating whether RPA is a tool or RPA is a competency. I think we largely trying to make culture in such a way that RPA becomes a competency of the core into the organization, because unless it becomes a competency and people really like going about it, how many times have you seen that some of the technology intervention has succeeded, and as soon as the project moves away from it and that controls drops on or the monitoring drops on, people start to do it again the old way. So I think it has to come really from all ends, and we need to take people together, because unless you take the people together, those things which people are doing, and of course the change is not natural to people. So whatever you are trying to force, it will fall apart moment your attention gets diverted or the project gets into an operational mode. So it is very important to involve people, engage people, listen to them, because in any transformation, it is very, very important to understand right from the doers who are actually doing it and impacting it on the floor, that what does they feel about this technology. And that brings in the cultural side of it, because you involving more people other than the stakeholders at a senior level or maybe at the GIC level. It is very important to understand, and somebody made a point earlier that what kind of technology you choose does not really matter, because more or less all technologies in the RPAs are more or less very relatable. It is only what solution that you implement, and that is what takes you forward or backwards. It is very easy from the RPA perspective to take a step and go forward, but it is also important to note that you do not fall back after a while. And that is what we have observed, like the transformation project goes on, things goes on, it gets implemented, and after say maybe couple of years or couple of months, people say that it's not working, so let's park it and go the old way. That happens because the culture is not imbibed in it. We certainly have to move from know it all culture to learn it all culture. We need to be open for people to understand and tell them what's working for the organization at a ground level. So it has to be a bottoms up approach rather than a top down approach for it to be successful in a long term.
So Rakesh, if you allow me. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So yes, what Deepak is saying, so I want to just share. See, to bring digital culture within an organization, important is involve employees. How we are making them understand that these digital tools are supporting team to them in place of their competitor or threat to them. If I give a good example, when we were implementing our RPA, we went through with the exercise where there was a Namkaran competition for bots by employees. So in place of a bot, there was a connection with a name which need to be given, like COE bot is like a Chanakya, or a payment bot should be like a Varun. Now, what is involved in this is, this has make a bridge between an employee and a solution which we want to implement. Employees are getting more connected because they understand this new digital tools are going to help them and enhance sustainability of system. So by nurturing employee, by training them on within these tools, like if I talk about, we have trained more than 100 people on these different modules of these digital tools. How it's going to help is, those people now think through, the actual doer now think through and come out with what challenges can be there. If we don't fix that challenge before implementation, then the solution may fall apart after 6 months or a year. So as Deepak said, yes, if we don't employ the real user in a right sense, the hidden challenges doesn't come on the surface and solution is not incorporated to fix those problems, which bring a challenge in future. So yes, for change management success and bringing people with us, it's more of connect which we need to do at the time of implementation of those projects. That can help.
Yeah, and another.
I just say, just give me 30 seconds. Sorry, I just come back to you. I think I just want to launch another poll quickly, connected to the same point. Here we go. So the question is, which key factor has the highest impact on digital transformation? I think all of you spoke a lot about some of these, expecting the panelists also to respond to this question, please.
All the options are very difficult, Rakesh. All of them are applicable, though. That's the thing.
You have to select one.
I've done mine.
All the above.
Guys, while we are doing this polling, Rakesh, I'll just take the opportunity to talk about proof of concept we were talking, right? Then what we are seeing is proof of value, POV, not POC, right? And to Sudesh's point, right, he spoke about one of the examples where the weather forecast was built by the bot. Now, that's the value which a digital transformation project can bring, which can start at small level and can grow big. By doing or deploying that particular solution, you're able to provide the value to the organization and trying to save a lot of hardships from there on. So that's the new thing which we are seeing with the customer. It's about proof of value with minimum viable product, something which is deployable and can be used immediately. I just thought I wanted to share that point.
Yeah, thanks, Amit. So another 5 seconds to end the poll. I hope everybody in the panel at least have taken the poll. Okay. Now, I know I'm just running against the time, literally a couple of minutes to go, and I'll just run a very rapid fire, a few questions, all of you on a screen for me, and I'll just ask questions and I request you if you can raise your hands physically. I'll just obviously take names as well. Sanjay, in this whole digital transformation and this work from home, this challenge of COVID, etc., we talked about, where is all your GDPR, where is all your information security, where is all your confidentiality is managed, how it is managed?
I think that these are foundational pieces to the business, and absolutely, I think the focus remains intact on these things. And I'll just maybe give you another interesting quote, and this is a very unprecedented, challenging times. And I personally feel we don't need to do anything earth-shattering. And this is Napoleon once said, "Who is genius? Genius is an average person. Genius is the person who does average thing when everybody else around him is losing his mind." So I think maybe we are in that kind of a situation. So the basics all have to be in place. And on top of that, we need to accelerate on the digitization side.
Thanks for that. Sudhir, a quick question to you is, and just very, very quick responses, please, everyone. A very quick question to you is, the digital quotient we talked about, and now we're talking about, as we spoke about, digital transformation as well. I think the digital quotient, one of the things which you think, if it is not there, and the organizational execution capability that is not there, you will not be able to move towards the digital transformation. That is very, very critical to have.
I would say very simple. I think if the leadership, rather than saying what questions, if they have the how questions in their mind, rest everything will fall in place, which means you will get the tech savvy people, you will get adaptability, you will have digital literacy, everything will fall in place. I think main changes in ourselves in terms of leaders. If we have the courage to ask how question and stay there to understand how that is happening, many of us are asking the what questions, right? And we don't listen when someone is saying how they are going to do it. And I think that's where we have to change ourselves.
Two very interesting questions. I think one quickly to Sriram and then to Sandeep. I think the Sriram for you is, where will you put your money more? existing systems or new systems, the return is going to be the same?
Fix existing systems right now rather than something absolutely new.
Okay. Okay. Sandeep, question to you is, we all talked about culture, and I think Deepak was pretty much talking about the culture and the competencies. This RPA and AI has to be seen as the competencies. So question is, if this is about competencies, if this is about culture, are you creating your proficiency level of saying, this is proficiency level 1 for my digital culture, this is the level 2, this is the level 3, level 4? How are you thinking about it?
Well, I think if you carry on what you have been doing, you get what you have been getting. So I think it's a journey for me. And of course, this whole proficiency and the ways of working and the competencies. I mean, I can tell you that we did dwell about this whole machine learning, robots, automotive applications and tools. Unless we upskill, cross-skill, and that also includes ways of working, I think we remain the more where we were earlier.
Okay.
In the interest of time, I'm just kind of keeping it short.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I think I just wanted a very short response. So, Deepta, very quick, short response from you on a specific point. I'll just come back to it. A quick, short response from Sudipta, you is, do you see in this kind of situations where the business and technologies are getting so integrated, the corporate governance is going to diluted, convoluted? There will be a challenge to it, how this whole corporate governance will work, because this is getting so much of technology and business together.
I think corporate governance is fundamental. So I think what will happen is even corporate governance will evolve so that it has a new evolved set of rules to manage this integration that's happening. Because that integration is inevitable. It has to be managed with a more futuristic approach.
Thanks, Sudipta. Dheeraj, quick point from you is that a lot of these technologies you talked about, even in life, has an impact. Even in societal, in our I think Sandeep talked about, we are having this session thanks to this virtual challenge of COVID and so on and so forth. How is this technology, you think, will have an impact in the ecosystem of your own employees of a shared services? Will they be impacted the way they work in your business services, and once they go back and live the kind of world they are in the kind of space they are in their lives, will there be any connect in this too?
I think we all understand it's a big life-changing event for all of us, but I feel it's been very favorable for us to see, and we were undermining the potentiality we had in our systems and the business. But I think COVID gave us a good, a heads up and an eye opener that yes, even in the situation like this, the kind of systems and people mindset what we have has been really, really positive for us to move forward and carry on the same momentum with regards to bringing in more changes, right? Because this has changed a lot of stuff for us, right? Everybody, but we feel that this change is quite positive for us.
Thanks, Dheeraj. A quick question to you, Tarun. I think you talked about POCs. I think there's a question also coming in terms of the Q&A. Some of the big leaders we talk about, they take a lot of calls and take a lot of risks. Is it the managers who are managing the shared services shy of taking risks, and they want to avoid that risk by doing these POCs?
So I would not say that managers or leader in shared service shy away from taking risk. Probably yes, with the POC, I feel it's a bit easy to convince your stakeholder, because then you have a data which talks about a success which is getting delivered. But yes, and I believe, especially in digital era where things are changing every 6 months, 1 year, if you're confident about what are the success stories, and if you can vouch for that, so in place of POC, probably you should go for it. Maybe at a pilot way, but yes, you should go for it. Because then the pace at which you will be able to deliver will increase, and in coming time, pace will matter.
Thanks.
And
I'm just sharing the results. Just give a second. I think just sharing the results of the poll, add it on the screen, and I will request if Sumit, you can comment on these results. How do you see this?
No, there's no surprise. I voted for customer satisfaction as well. So, technology is a means to provide, solutions for customers. So, customer is at heart of everything we do from shared services perspective and also as a technology company. So, if we have a customer in the center of our digital transformation journey, I think any step from there on would be a natural succession for me.
Deepak, any quick comments from you on this poll results?
Yeah, sorry, I am not able to see on my screen the results, so will not be able
Okay, and I think the results basically came out as the improvement in performance and customer satisfaction is seen as one of the key factor which has the highest impact on digital transformation. Vis-a-vis elements like cost-benefit equation or cost or business case, vis-a-vis the senior management conviction, and even the knowledge of the next-gen application. So vis-a-vis some of these, the improvement in performance and the customer satisfaction is seen as the highest impact or the key factor for the highest impact.
I think there's no surprise if customer satisfaction came as a key result from the survey, because say for example, we at RvaluE highly valued customer survey, and every year we go through the customer survey and see where are we compared to how we are performing or trending over it. So I think customer has to be keep in mind, and he is the one or the stakeholders for the internal shared services are the one where we are doing the job, because until and unless they see the value point on what you are delivering, there's no point doing it, because customer centricity is key to every business. So I don't see it as a surprise. And to your earlier question, which also links to this, is why do you do the POC? As a shared service leader, we are pretty sure that this technology works, but to keep the customer in confidence and give them the perspective, we do the POC.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think some of you obviously talked about that. A last question, and I think I just request you to raise your hands or say whatever you want to say. Each one of you can go for it. BCP, DR versus BAU. Where are you stuck now? The BCP, we prepared a lot of BCPs. Is BCP going to be part of your strategy now, or you think it is part of a BAU?
I'll convert that as BAU, Rakesh, for us.
I think it's BAU. I mean, this situation is here to stay. It's no longer BCP. This is the new normal, as they say.
The thing which we planned for BCP has now become BAU. So our BCP is now BAU.
Oh, what I hear the theme is everybody is saying that BCP is BAU. So which means that the question which I was having specifically, and Sudhir and Sanjay, I'll request you to also quickly add to it, is maybe Sandeep, you can also go for it. Do we really need a BCP plan now? Or is it like, forget BCP now, everything is BAU? You have to be ready for any eventuality.
We need a new BCP for the new normal. Probably the old BCP doesn't exist. We have probably exhausted that.
I think I agree with Sandeep. The BCP is completely BAU now. We would need that, but that's now mainstream. That's not something which you will look at once in a while.
Okay. So Rakesh, so I will just add one more dimension to the BCP, which was quite dormant, which was the physical and emotional well-being of people. I think we were a little bit more skewed in the previous regime by the fundamentals of uptime and physical or data backups. I think what is really important is, as we get into this journey more, and if God forbid, if we continue like this for more months, there has to be a very seasoned intervention to make sure that our people are healthy.
Makes sense. I think I'm already overshot on the time. Thanks for your perspectives. Really appreciate that. It was fantastic talking with all of you today. I think each one of you had really a life experience to share. Some of the comments, some of the experiences were very insightful, and sure many of us who were logged into this session today and those who would be seeing it as a recorded version on the Shared Services Forum portal would be very, very going to be benefited with this discussion. Let's be connected, let's stay safe, and let's try to see how much we balance between this virtual and physical. I'm sure I'll be shaking hands with you guys sooner than later, and everything will be all right. With this, thank you. Have a great day and a great week ahead. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.